Until they came up out my forest, they looked into my room. I was only 4 years old, I didn't know what to do. I was playing muscle men with a friend, I think the dude was named Vernon. He saw the M16s and stepped away from the curtains, and they kicked in the door. This is the DEA. They saw my father, and then they fucked up his face, and they cruised up the stairs with their M16s. They busted into my room and scared the fuck out of me. I saw my mama, I said, what the fuck's happening? She said, we're busted. I said, what the fuck does that mean? She said, for growing the weed under the basement floor. I said, the plant that dad smoked. She said, but there's more. They're gonna take up our house. They're gonna take all your toys. They're gonna take away data. They're gonna put them in bars. They're gonna take all our money. They're gonna take all your cake. The next day was my birthday. I'm not being fake. These motherfuckers, they're called the DEA. They're called the CIA. They're called the NSA. And today, they listen to everything that you say, but you don't give a fuck. You just go about your day. You're not American. They keep a file on everyone, and we pretend that we're dumb. We sell all our metadata. It's worth more than a sum, but they don't give us back none because they know that we're numb. We got some stupid motherfuckers that just want to be safe, and they'll give up their freedoms, man. They'll give up their say. They'll spend $1 million on education just to join up the slaves. You're not American. Thoughts.
You're not American unless you throw away your cell phone and let them stop tracking you and buy an old car without a computer in it, and don't go on the internet and farm corn and chickens and get yourself a ranch out in the middle of nowhere and arm yourself to the teeth.
That's the plan.
That's the plan, right? Me, you, and Tyson and Cassie, right? And chickens and guns. And we're gonna buy ourselves a ranch. Yeah. We'll shoot elk. Look, I was looking today at a thing in Colorado where there's like 15,000 acres. You know how big that is? That's bigger than Manhattan and New Jersey and all that shit together.
2 million. 15,000 acres.
237 square miles or some shit like that. We did the math for $2 million.
It was 10 million for that. If you there's just like 10 ranches, they're all together 15,000 acres each, and they're all around 2 million, like 1.6 to 2.1
okay,
million.
Calculator guy, but hey, you get it.
Lots of land.
Lots of land, right?
Holy shit!
For but that one for 2 million was 10,000 acres, and it had lakes, and it had 2 big freaking houses on it, yes, and hunting blinds. And what we could do is we could all chip in. We could buy all these acres, and then we could go hunting bad guys. Like we could snatch up Rupert Murdoch off the street, like stick him in a van, and then bring him right to the center of all those acres and be like, "Hey, Rupert, it's time for you to run." Hey.
I've always wondered how shows got canceled. I don't wonder anymore.
We could go hunting. We could do some hunting. We could get snowed in and live off the elk and see if we ate each other. See how I don't know. I think it's a good idea. So what's happened this week, Tyson? Anything you want to talk about before we bring our guests on? I'll tell everybody about our guests real soon, but we should.
A couple of things. One, I can't believe we're only 4 months away from Beetlejuice 2.
Oh yeah. Beetlejuice. I loved them. I'm such a fan of that movie, and yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited about the Joker 2 coming up too. The musical version of the Joker. The Solar Storm. You never saw the Joker with Joaquin?
Yes, but the musical. How is that how do you make that a la da 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 stab? Like how does that?
You don't remember him on the steps doing his little dance? They're going to do more of that, I think, with some musical numbers. It'll be really depressing and it'll fuck with your head. It'll be great. God, it's Mother's Day, by the way. Excuse me, Mom. Happy birthday. I mean, fuck. Totally blew Mother's Day right there. Mom,
where's my hard
if you're
liquor?
Watching, I'm very sorry that I messed up Mother's Day and I haven't called you yet, but you know that I love you to death. Thank you so much for sending me money. My mom sent me money on Mother's Day. Isn't that terrible?
My mom, went and died 2 months ago, so I'm still mad at her.
I guess that's worse. So are you still having that whole, like, why did you leave me 10-year-old thing going on? I mean, it's real. I'm not trying to make fun of you. It's real. Why did you leave me? What the fuck? Is that still happening?
Well, no, but there are, there are times like Friday, I went shopping. I went to the store, and all these bouquets and balloons and Happy Mother's Day and everything. And my natural instinct was to go, buy flowers, buy a card, because I gave my mom. I live here in the same house with her when she passed, and I've lived here for 10 years in my parents' house. So I'm used to buying, every Mother's Day, getting her a present. Sometimes it's gift cards, sometimes it's cash, but it's always a card and flowers and something cute and cuddly. And it was hard. It was hard going in the store and knowing that I can't buy anything for her anymore. It's Mother's Day, so.
What's up with your pop? Is your pop still alive?
Oh, I don't know. She was this morning. Let me see.
Your pop, your dad,
Hold on.
man. Your dad, not your
Have
cat.
you died yet? Oh, I thought you said pup.
Pup.
No, my pup is
Yeah,
fine.
I'm glad your pup is still rolling.
Get
with
out
us.
of here. He wasn't talking about you. All
I
right,
think I'm pretty certain that cats and dogs are actually alien video cameras working in the what's Elon Musk call this reality?
Okay, I was joking before, but I really do think I need the hard liquor if we're gonna go down this road.
You can't do that on YouTube. That was chocolate milk or something.
There you go.
The hard chocolate milk.
Hard chocolate milk. Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about the solar storm a little bit. They're telling everybody to go outside and like look at this thing. Simulation. Yeah. So simulation. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, dogs and cats. They are cameras within the simulation that study us. Because I'm always looking at my cat and I was like, why are you staring at me all day long? I think it's more of, I think they're just, that's how they track us and see what we're doing in the simulation. See? Yeah, she's doing it
Go
right
play with
now.
the dog. Yeah, she's gonna go play with the dog and spy on us.
Mm-hmm. From the background. They're looking at you right now. Oh,
They
not.
are? Well, they were.
Well, one of them is. Cat's about to lay down and take a nap. All right, so the solar storm. They're telling people to go outside. What the fuck? There's this is radiation 16 times the mass of Earth, these explosions. Like if Earth was close to the sun, it would be vaporized like a shadow. Poof. And we should go out and look at this. I don't buy it.
Well, okay.
I think we're all getting nuked. We're all going to die. We're all going to have cancer in like 10 years. I'm not trying to spread disinformation, but it's just my theory as not a scientist.
Okay, so I'm going to say that we have magnetic shield around the planet, and these high energy
but this is a G5
particles are
solar
hitting,
storm.
They're hitting 99% of these are just hitting Earth's magnetic shield and causing these beautiful colors. By the way, as you know, I'm into ham radio, and we look forward to these SMEs, solar
mass
coronal mass ejections, ejaculations from the sun. Yeah, we look for these.
Learned about mass ejections.
Solar boners this week on Dangerous
solar boner.
Talk.
Because in ham radio, there's a lot of skip and a lot of bouncing radio signals off of the shield, and so when you have these mass ejections, the skip levels are beautiful. You can talk all over the world.
But you can see the northern lights in Alabama. To me, there's just something a little radioactive about that.
Bottle of vodka and sledgehammer, you can see them anywhere.
I think there's dangerous levels of radiation. In fact, I almost didn't drive over here today because I was like, this is the last of it hitting us right now. And I was like, I don't need to go nuke myself today for a freaking podcast, but I did it anyway. But pretty amazing stuff anyway. The size of this thing. Have you seen the picture of the, I should have keyed it up to Cassie. Have you seen the close-up of the 16 Earth-sized solar, what is it called? A sunspot? Have you seen the thing?
I have not seen this one. I have seen others. I've seen pictures what they look like, and yeah, they're huge. They're huge. Gigantic loop says the sun's magnetosphere spins. It also gets tangled in these huge electrical geomagnetic, strings break, and they throw out this coronal mass ejection. It really is beautiful. However,
how far
what was
away
it?
is the sun? You're a smart guy. How far away is the sun?
93 million miles or something like that. 96, 93.
8 light minutes away.
Yeah, that.
Okay, so if you got 8 light minutes away and you've got 16 bombs that are the size that literally could evaporate Earth, and it's only 93 miles away, you don't think that's affecting people on the ground?
Oh, 93 miles away. Yeah, it would kill us. 93 miles.
93 million, whatever.
Million's an important.
All right, so, but here's the thing. I read up last night that the people in the space station are like hiding in all sorts of safe equipment because they're still within the magnetosphere, but in a semi-dangerous place. So they're taking all these precautions.
Yeah.
I read an article that was put out by NASA about them possibly getting actual radiation sickness in the space station. So I thought, and then I read an article that said G5s can affect human beings on the planet Earth. So we're definitely getting a dose. You can't say that we're not at least getting a dose. I don't know how you read radiation, whether it's SEVs or rads, or there's so many different ways that they read how much radiation we're getting. But I don't think it's safe to like be standing outside for the last 4 days and just going, wow. I think that's a dumb thing to do. Anyway, that's my opinion. Don't mean to spread disinformation, but I think they're hiding how dangerous that shit really is to us. Did you see the Tom Brady roast on Netflix?
No, I love roasts, and I have not yet seen it. Give me some spoilers.
You've got to see it, because this is the most like right-wing MAGA gloves off, the worst comedy about being gay, about skin color, about about being trans, about like gloves off sort of comedy. And I was sitting there laughing my ass off throughout the whole thing. I thought it was funny. Everybody knew it was a joke. At least in that room, it seemed like everybody knew that it was a joke. But it was 20 times what Dave Chappelle ever said about trans people and about gay people and about the type of jokes they were making. But I was so happy it happened, because as not a lefty or not a righty, I was just like, oh, humor. Yeah, we can laugh at ourselves. Yeah, it's okay. It's not hate speech. It's a joke. And so I really enjoyed it. But I know there are some people that watched it, and I'm just surprised there's not more, super lefty feedback about how offensive these jokes were, because some of them were like hard to stomach even.
Well, a roast, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the psychology of a roast.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's not stand-up comedy. It's not, a roast really is, you're supposed to cross the line, right? You're supposed to be offensive level, you're roasting somebody. And so I think
that's this the greatest roast of all time. So like, bring it.
I love me some roasts. I was just they roasted Donald Trump, which I thought was hilarious. Many years ago, 2012. They roasted Trump. William Shatner, I'll never get. Listen to this: Betty White saying, I cocked a bouquet at William Shatner's wedding, and I hope I'm around to catch the cock ring at Sulu's. Like, that came out of Betty White's mouth.
Right?
Like, you would never hear her say that, as a stand-up comedian on a stage, right? But a roast, I think, is different. It allows you to be a little more than what you normally would be. So I think there's some grace given to that. Oh my God, I could smell that from here.
I know.
Jesus,
it's powerful. Well, here's the thing, though. What I wanted to say about the roast is, it was absolutely over the line, and I hope that they keep it going. I hope that it didn't go so far over the line that like roasts get canceled, because it was heavy, but I loved it. And fuck anybody that can't take a joke. All right. Also, The Jinx, fantastic show if you haven't seen it, about Robert Hearst getting away with murder, being a silver spooner his whole life. Should totally check that out. I was going to talk about politics a little bit. I don't mean to get into politics. I just want to say that, we've got this guy with 90 something fucking charges against him from the federal and state governments. Completely utter douchebag, reality star, failed businessman, megalomaniac, fucking moron on the right-hand side. And then we've got this 80-year-old corporate warmongering genocide Joe on the left. To me, this whole country is so fucked if the people continue to believe that those are our choices, that we can't vote for who we want to vote for. I mean, we got to pick between these two fucking idiots, these two fucking jackholes that are, I can't stand it. That's all I got to say about that. Vote for who you want to vote for. Like I said, I've been saying this for like 4 weeks. Go down your ballot, vote for women, vote for independence, and see if we can make this country better. And ranked choice voting, I think, should be like established across all the states immediately. That's my political speech for the night. Anything else you want to chat about before we tell everybody who we're talking to this week?
To Ron, who was an amateur radio operator, also K6TME, Kilo 6 Tango Mike Echo. My contact is good in QRZ. I'd love to talk to you more about that. Ron Leckfor. Good. Finally, some other ham radio operator listening to the show. I can't believe it.
Cool. So you guys have had some problems with the instruments. It's been
it can wreak havoc. However, it can also create E-band skip. So you can get skip conditions, as Ron just pointed out. That skip is going to start rolling in, and we're going to be able to make some really good contacts. It had been dead just prior to. So with that,
so let me tell you about it. We've got some great guests on the show this week. Dan Baldwin and George Sewell will discuss pendulum dowsing and how. Oh man, why are my glasses so crappy? I think I have my girlfriend's on or something. Dan Baldwin and George Sewell will discuss pendulum dowsing and how it can be used to contact the dearly departed, including the spirits of the Southwest. I want to read you these guys' bios because they're really cool. Dan Baldwin is a professional writer, often a ghostwriter for other professionals. He's written and co-written or ghostwritten more than 60 books, and he's won numerous local, regional, and national awards. He's a certified clinical hypnotherapist. He plays the Native American flute and is an expert pendulum dowser, having used the pendulum to assist in finding missing persons for more than 20 years. And what's cool about these guys right now is not only has he helped find missing persons and used dowsing for 20 years, but they've used dowsing in their new book to cross over to alien abduction encounters and how pendulum dowsing and those two things connect. And I'm really interested to find out what they've discovered about how the paranormal can maybe help the interdimensional or the visitations from extraterrestrial beings. George Sewell describes himself as a cognitive philanthropist. He has a lifelong interest in the study of paranormal and the UFO phenomenon. He is the author of Habits, Patterns, and Thoughts That Go Bump in the Night, A Gnome, A Candle, and Me, Just the Facts, Please, about alcohol and drug abuse. Co-author Dan Baldwin, who we talked about earlier, and the novels The Krismere and A Turn at the Point. As a playwright, he's also written for community theater, college theater, and dinner theaters, for which he was awarded the Louisiana Division of Arts Fellowship in Theater and Playwriting. He has graduate degrees in drama and communications and counseling from Louisiana Tech. The first degree was from the University of New Orleans. Vocationally, he's retired as a counselor, program manager, and administrator in the field of addictive disorders, including problem gambling. I got to hook you up with my mom. My mom is such a problem gambler. Oh my God. My mom has bankrupted herself 4 times. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I'm sorry, but got to stop pulling on those slot machines. I'm also a drug addict. So, maybe he can help me. Maybe dowsing can help me. I don't know. But yeah, man, my mom, oh my gosh, I love her to death, but she can't stop gambling. And she keeps trying to convince herself that she's winning, but she's lost millions already. Like at least over $1 million. in the long run. So if she wins $400, I try to convince her, you got to subtract that from the million that you got to, from the million that you lost, and then you're not winning. Anyway, sorry, that problem gambling thing hit a sore spot, but I love my mom. And because she won in gambling last week, she sent me some money for Mother's Day. And I'm like, Mom, don't send me money for Mother's Day. Don't fucking do that. But then if I send it back to her, she just goes to the casino. So what am I to do? Buy a mattress, right? All right. So let's bring on Dan and George, and let's talk about their book and Dowsing. Hey, Dan and George, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Not to
Doing
do
fine.
better. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So let's talk about your book, Paranormal Pendulum 3. That's the one you guys did together, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about the book and how you guys brought these two phenomenons together, the UFO phenomenon and dowsing.
I'll start and then transfer it over to George. But I had left my I had not stopped, but I'd slowed down my work into a missing person because I was getting interested in contact with the spirit world. And I wrote a book on using pendulum dowsing to contact the spirit world. And in doing that, I did a tremendous amount of research. George was my top guy in helping me make that happen. And I wrote a second book about what it's like on the other side, what it's like to cross over, what's on the other side, is reincarnation real, are ghosts real, that sort of thing. And it was a pretty hefty book.
Well, we got time. Don't stop. I know you're... I want to stop there.
Okay.
Because what is it like on the other side?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
George came up with a phrase that he had heard or read was from a spirit who said, "I feel like I'm everywhere at once and I love it." And
wow.
We consistently ask different spirits over like a 2-year period, different locations, different times, different spirits, is that an accurate statement? And we got a yes.
Now, are they always pleasant? Or, I mean, growing up in a Christian household, it was always heaven and hell, right? Are there any tortured spirits out there?
Yes, but I know I haven't encountered any, and George and I together have not encountered any negative forces. I know they're out there, but we don't go looking for them. We're not ghost hunters. I hate that term. And we're not out there looking for something demonic because it's exciting, and that kind of thing. We use dowsing as a research tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, with the 20 years that you worked with dowsing to look for missing persons,
I'm still doing a little bit of that. But
can you share an interesting story from that time on maybe someone that you helped find or
missing person case? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a successful story, and you're not always successful. A psychic's like anybody else. A psychic with a head cold is going to have a bad day. Yeah, you're not always cooking. Did a case up on what we call the Mogollon Rim. It's in the northern part of Arizona.
Oh, that's where what's his name got abducted.
Yeah, where Travis Walton.
Travis Walton, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was. So we had a call from. I was working with a group called Find Me then. I was a co-founder of the group, and I left after about 20 years. But we were working, and we got a call. This young man had gone missing. His family was terribly worried because he was depressed, and they knew he was somewhere in New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, or Utah. He was an avid camper, had a 4-wheel drive, and can we find him because we're worried about him. So there was a bunch of us working the case, and we're putting together different clues, and this is all going on. It's in real time. The family's driving up to the rim just because they hope that's where he went. And so I'm doing my dowsing. Is in New Mexico? No. Is in Colorado? No. Is in Arizona? Yes. And I use a process called shrink in the box. Is he north of this place, south of this place, east of this place? Eventually, you get down to a very small area. And I got out my topological maps, and from 4 states, I got down to probably a 5 square mile area. Using the topological map, I pinpointed an area. Then I got on Google Earth and started pinpointing individual rocks and streams and things like that. And I got to a specific area. I said he's going to be between this point and that point, which are a mile apart, if you walk 50 yards to the west and just walk that line, you will run into him. And the family was up there. We got a message to the family. We were in radio contact with them, and they just happened to be in that area. They said, well, that's one of his favorite camping areas. So they drove up there, and they met the sheriff or the county agent or whatever coming out, and they had the little hand-printed, we're missing person things. And they said, we're looking for your flyers. We're looking for this guy. And they said, oh, well, we found him this morning. And he was, unfortunately, had crawled into a tent and decided to end his life. But he was exactly where I found him.
Wow. So yeah, you were maybe.
And there were other people working the cases that had different clues that all came together. But with using pendulum dowsing, I was able to pinpoint an area where the police can go to directly. And if he's not there, he's not there. If he's there, well, I solved the case.
With pendulum
dowsing technique.
With pendulum dowsing, is it sometimes you that's giving the answer, your subconscious, or is it sometimes, if he had passed on, could it have been him giving you directions to where he was?
Yeah, the way it normally works is your fingers here. I'll show you. Dowsing is just a rock on a string. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Goes that way, that's a yes. Goes that way, it's a no. And your fingers are actually doing the motion. There's nothing magical. There's nothing mysterious. It's a rock on a string. What happens though is your conscious mind starts looking at that. It's kind of like hypnotism. You freeze up your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind then contacts what's out there, the Akashic records, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and gets the information, which is downloaded to your subconscious. Your subconscious manipulates your fingers to the yes or no question. And yes, you can use your subconscious to make contact with the spirit world, and you can actually talk to people who have departed, and then that gets downloaded through the pendulum also.
And you guys have now discovered that you can use this technique to talk to extraterrestrials or interdimensionals. What's the book about? With
I was I'll segue into George, but
okay.
I was finishing up the book 2. And I got a phone call from George. He said, hey, Dan, can we investigate UFOs using pendulum dowsing? And I said, well, let's find out. And this is where Lindsay comes in. Let George tell it.
All right, so tell us about Lindsay.
Well, Lindsay, totally unknown to me. One night, phone rings. Didn't recognize the phone number, but I just had a little hunch. I might want to take.
Sorry, George. By the way, to our listeners, George has been a member of MUFON since the 1980s. So give him a internet hand for that. That's really cool. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a nice outfit, really is. Anyway,
yeah.
Answered the phone, and a female voice says, "Is this George Sewell?" And I said, "Yes." Joe Beth, a mutual friend, it turned out, said I could probably talk to you. Oh, and what might we talk about? Our mutual friend was aware that I was a member of MUFON and had done a fair amount of reading and otherwise research into the field. And this is what Lindsay wanted to get out of her system. So our mutual friend said, well, call George. So she did. And after listening for 2 hours, just check, everything she described throughout her life, I had heard before from other people, different times, different locations. And what to do with it. By this time, she had been guided by a spirit that we later identified to send her story as an email to a Los Angeles production company that was looking for true stories of paranormal experiences that people had indeed lived with. And she sent her email to the company, and within 24 hours, they had a response to set up a full interview with the producers. So they got to interview Lindsay and immediately said, "You're going to be one of these episodes." And
this is the Haunted show on Netflix.
Yeah, Haunted. Yeah, the series Haunted, first season, episode 5. But then they asked her, is there anybody else in your area, Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana, who's had similar experiences or who knows a lot about the subject? And that's when she thought about her mutual friend and, okay, yes, y'all need to talk to George Sewell. So they contacted me. We had a conversation. They said, okay, we need to bring you out to Los Angeles with Lindsay for the shoot. And it just got rocking and rolling from there. It was
Why don't you just hold up, Cassie? I can't see you down there. Good food at
Merle's.
Merle's. I can't hear you, man. You got your mute button on. So wait a second. So you said you got like 20 boxes that you checked off when Lindsay told you her story that are similar to things you've heard before and move
Yes.
on. Like what? Like what happened to her? Hey, this is Dangerous Thoughts. We're open.
Yeah, no. Lindsay is one of the few people I've talked to who have had experiences who recounts most of them as an actual memory, as opposed to a dreamlike thing or a fuzzy recall. She's able to recount them as actual memories. And that really got my attention. And it was just, a lot of it was your classic abduction type scenario. She would generally have, say, growing up, she could look out of her bedroom window into the yard, and she's on like a second story or elevated, and she would see like 3 gray figures outside of her window, and she really couldn't identify the faces. I'd heard that many, many times. And then there was an episode when she was in college, and this was recreated in the Netflix series, where she was up late one night as a college freshman. She's a procrastinator. She's going to study for the next day's test at 2 a.m. Okay. Mm-hmm. But around 4 o'clock, she's just got to get some rest. So she lays down, and then the way she describes it, the wall of her apartment literally dissolved. And she could see through the wall, and out in the grounds was a very large circular craft. And then she suddenly felt herself levitating and being pulled towards that open wall. And at this point, she was able to grab the fan blades of her ceiling fan, and didn't do any good.
That didn't last very long.
That didn't last very long. So off she goes, and she's really not sure how much time elapsed, but she was back in her room, and realizing that something had happened, she pulled her dresser over underneath the fan so she could stand on the dresser and look at the fan blades. And the fan blades, of course, were very dusty, except for the streaks of her fingers.
Wow.
And that informed her that it was an actual event.
Does she lose some of this recall of what happened when they took her?
She does not have much recall of what that particular experience involved.
That's what they seem to erase. That's also very common too, right? People remember being taken or having a being come into their room or them being abducted, but then it gets fuzzy about where they went.
Screen memory. So, they're very expert at manipulating our senses.
Yeah, they wipe our memories quite a bit. That seems to be the case. And then I hear that they don't understand, at least these grays. We're talking about grays, right? This is
actually, I don't.
No. So what about Lindsay? Does she think they were grays or
no?
Oh, she think. What does she? What do you think they? What kind of aliens were these?
What she described was what we would call Nordics.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
The blonde-haired, blue-eyed, German-looking ones, or so tell me what a Nordic typically looks like.
Well, I've never seen one, but
I
have heard.
I want to.
Many descriptions. and the similarities in descriptions are generally it's a very light colored being, generally taller, not hugely, but maybe 5 or 6 inches taller than most people. Generally have fairly long blonde hair, and almost always slightly larger eyes, and almost always blue. And
yeah, blonde hair, blue eyed.
yeah, and many
humanoid. Very, very. They could be mistaken for human.
Oh, yeah,
beings.
Yeah, if you passed them in the street, they were dressed in street clothes. You wouldn't think anything about it.
So Tom Brady, basically, from our opening segment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Ursula Andress,
Yeah. So earlier we said the Mongolian Rim, or I forget you pronounced it right. Mogollon Rim. So Travis Walton, when he got taken, he went up to the UFO, and after he saw the grays and the ships in the hangar, he mistook the Nordics for NASA scientists and went running over to them, at least in the book. And he's like asking them, "Where am I? How do I get out of here?" And they gassed him and then left him back in the road a week later. Really interesting, the Nordics. So what does she think, or what do you guys think the Nordics are up to? What's their agenda?
After working with Lindsay, with some evidential mediums, as well as the Pendulum, we were able to contact, if you will, the extraterrestrial who is more or less managing a long-term project, which Lindsay agreed to participate in. Some 6,000 years ago was when this agreement was made. And her involvement had a lot to do with the fact that, being a human being, she reincarnates, and that reincarnative element was something that had to be a part of this long-term project. And once she had that information, her response was, "Well, if I agreed to do it, okay, I'll continue doing it." And she just had a great relief, if you will, knowing what was going on, that it wasn't something arbitrary or accidental or mischievous. It was actually, she was being physically and emotionally monitored as a part of this long-term process.
As a part of this multi-life soul, or whatever you call it, that are in these avatars that the four of us are sitting in, these human bodies. So these Nordics are actually studying her multi-life, all the lives she leads over these 6,000 years, or does she know anything else about what the mission is?
The two things we did glean, that they were, the project she was participating in was to increase the average lifespan of Homo sapien to about 150 years as an average, and to greatly reawaken the sixth sense. So we would have more direct communication with the higher dimensions. But those were the two primary goals, if you will, or purposes for this particular project.
And was this goals with her, or with people she might meet through her lifetimes as well?
That we didn't ask, didn't know. We were focused on what was going on with Lindsay Higgins at that time, and looking for answers to what questions she had, and to find some way to alleviate her, I wouldn't say fear, but discomfort with the whole process.
Yeah. And what was your guys' process during the dowsing, when Dan came, or you guys worked together with Lindsay?
Sure, many times.
And you got together, and would you?
It was basic.
Tell me the process.
It's basically what you would do researching any other story. Yeah, we interviewed Lindsay. We interviewed other people. We double checked newspaper accounts, did research, magazines or whatever. It's just a research project. The only real difference is that we used the old, employed the rock on the string, and that some of the people that we interviewed just happened to not be physically alive.
Can you find out were you talking to some of her past lives, you think? Or do you know who you were talking to?
Yeah, we did that on at least one occasion. We've got a lot of information from her favorite aunt, who's now deceased, but she spent more time with her aunt growing up than she did with her family. And so her Aunt Belle just had all sorts of information to convey to her about what was happening, not to worry about. Aunt Belle was aware of Lindsay seeing these creatures, if you will, and that that particular property, as it turned out, had some features that are very similar to other geographic points that tend to have a lot of extraterrestrial type activity. There's some sort of water source, there's some sort of mineral source. This particular property that she was on, oh gosh, how long ago, Dan? 1,000 years. 1,000 years as an Indian village. I mean, so it had been.
Well, yeah, we run into a village 1,000 years ago. We also run into villages, 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But the one in her location was roughly Caddo Indian times 1,000 years ago.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
And did you ever talk to this Nordic being himself? Is there a way to find out his or her name, or do they have names?
To keep it simple, he agreed, or I'll say it, he agreed that we could just refer to him as E.T.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm E.T. Simple. It's like JT or PJ.
Or one of the important things that's covered in the book is that the spirit world connection. I firmly believe that George and I were led to this project by people on the other side. Mm-hmm. Who wanted basically to put Lindsay into a comfortable position where she could say out publicly, this is what's happened to me, so that her message would be carried to other people who are having similar experiences, to realize, you guys, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. This happened to me. It's happening to a lot of people. It's okay for you to come out. In fact, we encourage you. This is Lindsay speaking. You're encouraged to come out and tell your story to as many people as possible, because you're not alone. This is happening all the time to a lot of people. So, the more people that talk about it, the more comfortable those people are going to be in speaking about it.
And who would you guys recommend that people that are having these experiences or anything even nearly similar, who do you recommend they contact, or who do they talk to?
Somebody they trust.
Yep.
That'll be an individual matter. You can't automatically. You can't say, I've got to go talk to preacher about this, because preacher may, give you a lot of trouble. You may not be able to go to a close friend, because that close friend may have a belief system. Just kind of look around and find somebody who's open-minded, because
what about MUFON in general?
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh yeah, absolutely, great starting point.
How do you contact MUFON? Just MUFON.com, or is there a website? .org, and send your story and see if someone responds. And
they've got a system set up. I haven't participated in it. I'm not quite sure how
it's sort of a vetting system of some kind, right?
Yeah, but that's what MUFON does. They collect the information from experiencers. I mean, they're a repository of just buku thousands of cases.
And is there a place where citizens can go to read up on all this stuff that they've collected, the MUFON?
Yeah, they publish.
Now they could read Paranormal Pendulum.
Yeah, that's a good starting
Dan
point.
Baldwin
Sorry, I had to jump in there. I'm sorry. I had to put it in there.
No, and these guys have a ton of books too. Do you guys have a website where you can get all? I mean, these guys have written like 60 books or something. Do we have it in our description down below?
Yeah, everything that we have is available on Amazon, all the major distributors. Wherever you order your books, you can find our
Look
book.
up Dan Baldwin and George Sewell. You can see the names right there on the screen. All right.
Let me toss in something real quick here. Talking about contact with MUFON. If people are interested in contacting the spirit world, try that yourself. Give yourself a shot. Pick up a skill. Find something. It may be dowsing, it may be crystal ball, maybe tarot cards, maybe dreaming, maybe meditation. Experience it for yourself. Just go directly to the source.
Because they do hear you.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah,
the Nordics or
no,
the spirits.
They like to chat.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
my grandma a couple times a year comes up behind me and she goes, or it wouldn't be behind me, but it's usually in one ear or the other, and she'll just go,
She's just letting you know, hey, I'm around. I'm here. I'm here.
and it scares me, but it sounds like her. And for 20 years, I've been hearing this just on random occasions, not often, couple times a year,
Mhm.
but I'll hear this little, hey, you know. And finally, one time it was like Mother's Day, or I was hanging out with my mom for some reason a few years ago, and I was in my father's bedroom at the time, and I said, it happened, and I went, Mom, did you hear that? And she goes, oh, don't worry, that's just Grandma.
Yeah.
And I'm all, what do you mean? She goes, the hey. And I was like, yeah, you heard it. And she was like, yeah, she does that all the time.
She does that. She does
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
They're just
So I've got a
checking
question
in.
for you guys. What is there a veil, or is there a difference between the, say, spiritual world, deities, whatever, or a sufficiently advanced extraterrestrial? I mean, at what point do you cross that threshold from, extraterrestrial to omnipotent? I mean, is there a difference?
Can I add to the question? Because
Yeah.
I'm right with you. These Nordic beings, they seem very angelic to me. So are these extraterrestrials? Are these angels? Do we have an idea of, are they both? Yeah.
I'll give you my 2 cents. I think the Nordics are physical beings. I do think also there are spiritual beings who can take the form of Nordics or anything else. If they, if a spiritual being, highly evolved spiritual being shows up, that might be too much for the human being to handle, like, overload. So a highly evolved spiritual being could take on the form of a Nordic or a you or a me.
So some of these like
contact.
light beings can show up
Yeah,
as
but I think the answer is both. There are physical Nordics, and then there are images of Nordics.
That's what we seem to be finding over these last 10 years of paranormal research, is that the paranormal and the
very
UFO
complex,
and the
very
UAP, it seems to be very connected. And
Very much so.
we separated it for so long. It's nice to see that
that was one of the big surprises
all
that came out of doing this book was, wow, we're getting into not only an abduction, but we're into reincarnation, and we're into the spirit world, and we're into higher evolved beings in touch with the spirit world who are in touch with the UFO peoples.
Yeah.
Overload.
Let me mention
That's so cool.
our fun session with Lindsay. Dan, was just you, me, and Lindsay, and the Pendulum, and she wanted to converse with Sally Murph. Sally Murph was Lindsay's most recent incarnation, which occurred in the same city, and she had a fairly rapid turnaround, if you will, and she wanted to talk to herself in that other lifetime and find out if she also had contact with the extraterrestrials. So we're Dan's got the Pendulum, and there's Lindsay, and she's asking questions to her higher self, and Dan's getting the yes or no response, or almost always yes. So I just found that absolutely remarkable, that in one moment, one soul is talking to another
to their past life, a part of themselves in their past life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's really cool.
In the presence of two witnesses.
Yeah.
We're finding out what the description of the soul as a many-faceted jewel seems to be very accurate.
Oh, hugely.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, and the only reason I say that, as I told you guys before the show, the only time I've ever left this corporeal being that I call Manu, so much more than that, I'm certain of it, because this is a pretty boring thing here. This is just a little part of this wonderful thing that I really am. But when I left this body behind, and I took ayahuasca, and I took DMT a couple times in my younger age, and when I went to this other side, this other place, I definitely felt that it was like I did have a near-death experience. Man, why couldn't I think of that? I almost died like 5 years ago. And my own soul came to me, literally, and I was dying. I had like 270 blood pressure over like 190 or something. and it showed me this storybook of all my lives, and I could see them all, and not only all my lives, but my future incarnations, and then all the different things that could happen to me in that particular moment were flashing in on me. And this, all I could tell about this being was that I think it was me. I think I was actually talking to my own soul, and my own soul was saying, don't worry, you've got 1,000,000 lifetimes. God loves you. You're going to be good. You can die in this bed right now. You can take some deep breaths and move on to this, that, and the other. And it was showing me all these multiversal realities that I could choose to experience, but also that I was probably going to have to go through them all anyway. You know,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
it was very, very strange.
Were you offered a choice though? I mean, so you really could say you wanted to, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm done. That was
Yes.
a choice for you.
I could have absolutely died right there. Yeah. And because it said if I did the deep breathing all night that I could live, I held my girl really close because she was going through the same thing. We had been sold what's called fentanyl from a pharmacy in our Xanax prescriptions. We both have anxiety, and we were going to a really crappy pharmacy that was like kind of low rent pharmacy. And they were buying illegal Xanax from Mexico that was actually all this different poison. And we'd been taking it for like 8-9 months on and off at that pharmacy because it was a close pickup to my shrink. And I realized that night, I'm like, what is going on? Like this Xanax has never felt right. So I looked up the number on my prescription and the number on the pill, and I found out all these articles about this poison that was infiltrating America. And I shut that pharmacy down, by the way. The cops came, the fucking got closed down. But we almost died that night, and we both had similar experiences. I just held her really tight. And my buddy, who's a very straight-laced person, came over, and I said, look, we're dying. You need to get us on a plane back to Los Angeles. But I had all these options that night that my soul was telling me. First of all, if you want to live in this lifetime, first thing you got to do is get real with your investor who was staying with me across the hallway. And he was investing in Star Crew and all my projects. And you've got to go tell him that you found out all this information. You've been tricked into being a fentanyl addict by your pharmacy. This is all happening, and you got to get real with this guy and tell him. So I literally got up, went and knocked on his door at like 4 a.m, like with 270 blood pressure, out of my mind. I was hallucinating as well. These were horrible. By the way, never do fentanyl, guys. Just stay away from that shit. But I knocked on his door and I just told him, I said, look, my spirit body, my soul just told me that I need to get real with you. And I'm like, Mike, I was totally unaware of this, but I am a total junkie right now. I'm a fentanyl addict. I just found out all these articles about the drug that I'm on that I thought was Xanax isn't Xanax. It has 3 poisons in it that the FDA can't even recognize. They don't even know, what the molecule is. Your $300,000 that you have in my bank account right now for my sci-fi show, if you want it back, you should probably take it because we might die tonight. I'll transfer it to you right now. Like I was just open and honest with this guy, and that was part of the deal to live. It was, I just saw it. The soul was like, start breathing deep, start being honest with your friends, stop manipulating people. You go get on that airplane and go check into rehab, and then go check into your mother and father's house, and you'll keep going down this path that you're on. And I was like, all right, I'll do that.
I've got a question for you, Mono.
But there were other options.
And also for our panel, humans experience time in a very linear fashion, right? When you get to the spiritual realm or to advanced ETs, does time flow in a linear path, or is time like space transmutable? You can go back and forth.
Yeah, well, what they told us, once you cross over, I'm everywhere at once. So, there's no time, there's no space. I'm everywhere at once. And I love
so it's everywhere and every win at once.
Yeah. Yeah. But also the spirits up there, they can come back here. They can go back and forth. And in some of the research we've discovered, we've asked the spirit, you know, why are you here? And often the answer is, oh, I'm taking a vacation, or I'm still connected to the earth, or like your grandmother, I'm still connected to my kids. I'm just checking on the family, see how things are going, or I'm checking on the old farm, or I'm checking on my business. If they are, they're not earthbound, but they're close to the earth and they want to come back and check on the family or whatever, they can do that.
Yeah, or in one case, the fellow had just a fabulous day, best day of his life.
Yeah.
And he'd like to come back and just re-experience
Relive
that
it.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
So he wasn't
yeah,
tethered to a particular point in time. You can move back and forth.
Now, the one thing we learned about the spirit world is, you know, they're highly mobile. Like if you go, there are trapped spirits. Don't get me wrong. There are some trapped spirits, but generally, if you go to a haunted house to experience a ghost, the ghost is there because that's where you went to have the meeting with the ghost. You know, you could have gone to the Denny's and the ghost would have shown up at the Denny's. You could go, you know, to your house and the ghost would have shown up at the house. But it's at the haunted house because that's where you went to meet the spirit.
Yeah.
It's not because the house itself is haunted.
That's definitely the experience that I had was my multiversal soul was looking down at my singular locked in Manu self and was like, I love you. You're going to be okay. You've got a million lifetimes. Chill out. Here's all of them. And this great storybook of my soul opened up. And I'll tell you, this happened to my mother too. My mother ate some poison mushrooms when I was like 23, and she walked into the dunes and she almost died. And she had this really horrible experience and she was vomiting and throwing up all this psilocybin, and she ate like a lot of psilocybin. And she said that she met her soul during that experience. And she said, I actually met my soul. It appeared before me and it was beautiful and it loved me. And it was so full of love. And it was so beautiful that I couldn't even imagine being that as a whole. Like it has to be split apart into all these somewhat of like part of your soul is definitely like hanging out and in charge of what it's experiencing in all these different lifetimes.
Yeah, and apparently what we discovered is a soul can project into multiple lifetimes simultaneously
at once, right?
Yeah. So it's remarkable.
That's why I really like this AI thing. When I realized that AI was actually like, all right, for instance, a dog is they teach AI to a robot dog. And so the computer makes a million realities where this robot dog is slipping on ice, and they give it 24 hours in those million realities, which is like a ton of lifetimes worth of information, how not to slip on that ice. And through those million lifetimes, they then download that information and they stick it into the robot dog, and it doesn't slip on the ice anymore. And I'm like, that's sort of probably how souls and spirit and God works too. I think the AI is some pretty fascinating stuff, at least in that metaphor. I think it's,
in terms of love and God, spirit and things like that, George and I had a real interesting experience. We were with a friend of ours, Dave and Lauren. Dave is a dowser, and Lauren is a pretty good medium. And we were at a park where George has had a lot of psychic experiences. And we were sitting around and just seeing if someone would show up. You know, we don't do a seance. We're like, I want the spirit of Davy Crockett to show up. You know, we don't do that. We just,
King of the Wild Frontier.
Yeah. If there's somebody here, we would like to chat with you. Is there somebody here? We got a yes. And there was David and George, me and Lauren.
Is the pendulum draw a coonskin hat? Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, Lauren says, I'm picking up a really wonderful, I don't know, highly evolved spirit or something right over there, you know. And she's seeing, she said, I'm seeing kind of purple imagery. And about that time, it's in the book. She and I were feeling the same thing. And you hear in the book, it goes, you hear me go, oh my God, I'm tearing up. I'm really feeling that. And I took to Lauren and said, are you feeling that? She said, oh yeah. And it kind of passed. It was kind of a wonderful moment. But I said, I asked Lauren, I said, how would you describe that? She said, it was mother love. we were being beamed mother love.
Do you mean by like the omnipotent being
No,
at the center? What's mother love?
No, that's the feeling. The love of a mother for her child. This spirit or this entity was giving us the same feeling as
Yeah.
a mother would to her beloved child.
And more specifically, Dan, that was E.T.
That was
Oh,
ET.
that
Right, I
was-
That
forgot
was
about that.
E.T.
I
Yeah, that
want
was-
to meet a Nordic, man. That sounds so cool. So
You probably have.
I hope so.
Like they say, if you go down to Tombstone, we have a lot of reenactors. You know, guys that dress up, guys and girls who dress up in the old costumes.
Mhm.
Some of those aren't reenactors.
Yeah. You think they're hanging around on Earth with
Yeah,
us?
oh yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. I love that movie, They Live, from back in the day. And I was like, you know what? I bet that's so true. There's probably bad ones and good ones hanging out.
Yeah.
Not Nordics. I think Nordics are probably mostly good, but that's just my opinion.
Well, that's our experience with the Nordics has been just positive. But again, we've never had a negative experience.
Never.
Never.
In your whole
No, never.
25,
I don't want one.
30
I don't
years.
go looking for it.
You don't go looking for it, so it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Pretty much, it's the law of attraction.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You keep a positive outlook. You don't have to see anything negative. I dig it. On the spiritual side, I'm glad that works because it doesn't always work in, this life. You run into bad people sometimes. But we have 5 callers and we
Yes.
should let them ask some questions to Dan and George. So who do we got first on the line? Hello, Chuck Pearson. Hey, Chuck, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, Manu.
I got to tell you, Chuck, I spilled the beans on you. I really didn't mean to call you out about what you experienced back in high school, but
Don't worry about it.
I hope
man.
that didn't piss you off, right? I hope it didn't.
No, man. That's all known. I talk about that a lot.
I
I've
just
written
keep it
down.
real, man, because I think that was fascinating, and you look really healthy right now. You got spiritual light glowing behind you.
Oh, you like that, man? I added that for theater lighting, man. I got that for my other show, man, the Mind Talker show. I've been like, hey, I got to get that light
And
on there.
Right on. Hey, Chuck.
All I got are the police.
So
Red
Chuck, this is my friend Chuck. I knew Chuck for 4 years in high school. We haven't really hung out since, but this is my buddy Chuck.
We
from high
were
school.
also on the 7th grade basketball team, something you insisted
Oh
on
yeah,
doing. And I still remember that.
we
That was so
almost won
fun,
the
man.
B team tournament. Yeah, that was a blast.
We almost did.
Yeah,
Almost.
that kid hit the half court shot to beat us. Anyway, Joe, you must have a question for George and
You
Dan.
know, I got to admit, I got on really late, unfortunately, and I've just been listening to your story. It's just been really amazing. And what are both of your thoughts on ghosts in general? Like, are ghosts really contacting us regularly, or is it something that isn't really happening much?
Depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
depends on
the answer is yes, depending on the person.
Yeah. So if they were to contact me, for example, like how would they contact me? And I could say, well, that's not a mental illness. That's a real ghost.
It would be something that you would recognize: a sight, a sound, a feeling, a smell.
Or
It-
a
something
mental
individual.
sense. A mental sense.
Is there a
Okay.
certain George? I mean, Chuck, is there a certain person that you're looking for to contact you, or is there?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably contact my father, because this Mother's Day has been kind of rough. My mother's in a nursing home and I don't know exactly where it is and I don't have any way to get there. So I guess I'd like my father to contact me and say everything's all right with her, and I hope it is.
Well, first off, make that request and then be open to
Yeah.
You have to be open to it.
That's the large thing. I've always been told, my mother was sensitive to this as well, and she said, there are people that deny these things, and in their brain, they don't believe in it, and therefore they will never perceive it. It is people that are open to it, people that allow this to come in, that are more in tuned. But you're right. I mean, if you're not open to it, you're not going to experience it, right?
Yeah. So wait a second, Chuck. This actually is a really good question because Chuck, are you open to talk about mental illness a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I
So
have a schizoaffective disorder and a master's degree. I can look at it from a lot of angles, actually.
all right, so you've got a master's degree and yeah, schizoaffective disorder is the
Schizoaffective disorder. Schizoaffective
okay.
disorder,
So
which
how
is a
does one
combination of seeing and hearing things that aren't there, as well as a mood disorder like bipolar.
yeah, so that's a really good question. How does someone that is dealing with these mental illnesses then get into this field since they might be experiencing some of this just from the mental
More and more
illness? How do they
specifically to his
distinguish?
and more, yeah, to his point, how do you tell the
Especially if
difference
you hear
between
if you hear voices a lot, which I don't hear voices a lot, but people like me do. People who don't take
Right.
their meds will hear a lot of voices that aren't really there. You know,
When I was young and I took a lot of acid, I would hear a lot of voices.
Yeah, but how do you tell
Yeah, what's real, what isn't?
what's real, what isn't? Whether you're drug
I kinda
agitated,
like the
whether it's
voices.
like I just
Well,
heard a phone ring. Did everybody hear that phone ring?
That's my phone, man. I'm sorry, that's my phone, bro.
That's real. Okay, that's all real. Well, that's 5 people.
Hey,
that heard
take
it.
another caller, man. I gotta take this. Take another caller.
I love you, Chuck.
Yeah,
Keep
nice.
tuning in, man. It's nice to see you, dude.
I'm gonna
All
keep
right.
watching. You guys take another caller. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Love you, Chuck. It's fucking
Love
cool
you.
to see you, man. I didn't see you last time. We didn't get you on air, so thanks for coming on. Who's next? Dave Prime. What do you got
Hey.
for George and Dan?
I got notes, so yay. Like first
oh,
off,
we'll be here all night. No, I'm
oh
kidding.
ha ha ha. I say thanks for being with us tonight, first of all, and be sure to like
Okay,
and
we're ready.
subscribe to this channel
Here we
because
go.
we gotta get those likes and subscribes.
Yeah, if you
But-
guys are watching live, like and subscribe. Take the time to hit the button.
But
Sorry.
Dan is going to
your whole-
hypnotize you into asking one question.
And you can
Yeah.
only say
Well-
yes or no.
So what are your thoughts on using the pendulum versus the dowsing rods? Because I've had personal experience where I was, as a paranormal investigator, not a ghost hunter, I thought the question, is there something in this room that's making those things move? And the yes rod pointed right at me.
Yeah, there's no difference. I mean, it's the pendulum, or the rods, or the crystal ball, or the tarot card. It's all the same thing. It's just you need to find out what tool works best for you, your personality, and your belief system. But it's all the same stuff. So if the rods work better for you than the pendulum, that's what you need to go with.
Mm-hmm.
But one is not better
Chopsticks or a
than the other.
fork. Chopsticks or a fork. Either way you eat, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
That's
go.
literally what they're saying. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Because I got my high school reunion coming up in less than 3 months, which is going to take me back to central Idaho, where my BFF, my best friend, the first friend I ever made, passed away when I was only 12 years old. And we had a real deep spiritual bond between the two of us. He's a native Nez Perce Native American, and he has visited me on several occasions since he's passed away. And 36 years later, I still get highly emotional whenever I speak of him. We were that close. So as a paranormal investigator, I'm going to go out early and visit his gravesite with a digital audio recorder, try and communicate with him. Do you think working with a pendulum might help in that communication with him?
Yeah, it can definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, the main goal is keep your mind completely open so that you're not forcing the answer, so that you're not getting the answer that you want to get.
Okay.
Also, don't go to his gravesite.
Yeah, you don't need to. Yeah,
They don't hang around there.
You don't need to go to the gravesite unless you particularly want to.
Go
to
somewhere
someplace
that you guys hung
that was
out.
important. Go to someplace that was important to both of you.
Yeah.
Well, which it'd be kind of awkward going to the grade school.
Well, why not? Hey, I just go, hang out outside. Tell them what you're doing.
40-year-old gay
No.
man hanging outside of the elementary school probably would not.
Well, yeah. Where are you going? Seattle.
Go to the park,
No.
or someplace that was special to you, where you had a
Going
lot of
back-
fun.
Going to Lewiston, Idaho.
You guys
it
must
took
have
some-
taken walks down certain streets. You didn't stay at a house or
Well, there's his house across the street from the grade school. I think
you could just sit in your car outside his house and do that. That's not too creepy.
Well, if his mom's not alive and someone else is living there, it might be a different level of creepy.
Well,
But no,
if they ask you, hey, my friend used to live here, I'm just trying to have a conversation with
Or just
somebody I
go
love.
find a quiet place at the city park.
Yeah.
You know,
honestly,
just the gravesite. I got to tell you, on the ghost, what did you call it? Spiritual investigator, not ghost hunter.
Paranormal investigator.
The times that I've gone with some of these groups out to do that, I've never gotten anything from a graveyard. Graveyards are just dead zones in my experience. That there's nothing there. Why would you want to hang out with your?
If I were a spirit,
why would you
that's
want to
not
hang out at a graveyard? I mean,
yeah,
why would you?
Well,
boring.
I don't know why, I can't explain it, but I've just been particularly drawn to visit him at his burial site.
Well, if you have a connection to him there, don't let me.
If you got a strong feeling, follow your gut.
Yeah, and like saying he had a lot of abnormalities in life, which when he visited me 2 years after his passing, he had none of it except his glasses. I mean, that was like one of his defining looks. But I believe that he's going to be the spirit that's going to be there with me when it's my time to cross over as well. So that I think that too kind of like draws me towards his burial site.
Do we see spirits in the image in which we would recognize them? So my grandmother, when she died, was 90, and I hope she doesn't spend, eternity as a 90-year-old crippled old woman. But I wouldn't recognize her as a 20-year-old teenager either, right?
Your
to my
soul
mind,
would.
there's well, right. Do they appear to us in a way that we recognize, or in a way that they wish to be recognized?
Well, when you're crossing over, probably. I would say almost assuredly they would be in a form that you would recognize in a very pleasant way.
Yeah.
Something very familiar. And then from after you get a crossover and you're acclimated, no telling where either one of you will go. But I would say when you land on the other side, everything will be pretty familiar. And then they'll ease you into the it's so overwhelming over there. You have to be eased into it, I believe.
Into the ether or whatever that is.
Whatever, yeah. The wonderful stuff.
I told you about my buddy Jeff, my lady's father, who has died twice now, and both times he was just standing in a big white place that had no ground, but he could feel the ground under his feet, even though he couldn't see it, and just kind of kicked it there for a while. And then I made him watch The Matrix, and he jumped up and went, "That's exactly where I was."
So. Yeah, but just one quick last thing. It's just like you're talking about the Nordics being extraterrestrials. Stargate SG-1 hit it right on the head. So the Asgard played Nordic gods like Thor and all the others.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. We kind of got into it. Where are the Nordics from? Do we know? Besides the ones that have incarnated as light beings that have became Nordics, the physical Nordic beings, are they do we know what galaxy or what system they're from? Or
George, we ever hit on a location? Our thinking is they're from either another dimension or another part of the universe.
Well, that's where we're limiting the question by the way we would frame it. Okay, my understanding is when I did pose the question, the closest we could get that they were from the Syrian star system, but we're not going to get into a physical location because when they're at home, they are not physical.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're in, we would, for better of a term,
so these Nordics, yeah, especially if they're checking out 6,000 years of lives from this lady, that Lindsay Higgins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then they're probably, they almost seem like some type of angel, for lack of a better word.
In that form, there's no such thing as distance. There's no such thing really as time. So
no. Yeah, so once you jump outside of the time, space-time dimension, that must be fun. I think I'm going to go die right now because that sounds great, dude.
Yeah, don't die just yet. The show's not over.
No, I'll wait.
Not in my house.
Not in my house. I'll have to deal with your avatar.
No, you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna do it.
No. All right. I decided that a while ago that I was going to live. for a while longer, at least. Okay, who's next? Is it Mala or
Next we have Katie.
Katie? Katie, what is your question, ma'am, for Mr. George and Dan? Morning.
She's from England. She's not a vampire. Come on. What was that?
Who says I'm not nice?
I did a little vlog accent.
You did a little, yeah.
I didn't
Yeah. No, one of the questions that I have is, well, one, how did you both get into all of this? And secondly, what are your thoughts between dowsing and scrying?
And what's scrying? Because I don't know what scrying is.
Scrying is more
in a
water.
water or mirror. Yeah. Okay.
It's to answer that question, it's all the same thing. It just it's all the same thing. You need to find out which technique works best for you. That's all. That's all you need to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Which tools?
They're not in conflict with each other. One is not better than the other. It's just what works best for you. And I got into it because I was led into it by I'm not a clairaudient. I don't hear voices, but about 25 years ago, I heard a voice that said, go find missing children. That's what led me into it.
Wow. Tell me about that experience. Where were you? How old were you? What happened?
I was about 25, 24 years ago. I enjoy a really good cigar, and I like to walk around my neighborhood because I basically dumping all the trash from the day, just kind of get it out of your system. And I was down at the local park. There was nobody there by myself, no cars going by, no windows open, playing television set. And I heard a voice that said, find missing children.
The trash you were dumping wasn't missing children, was it?
No, just the crap from the crap from the day,
That's the show. Yeah. I'm just making a terrible joke.
Okay.
Terrible.
But
yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
No, it was a voice, clear as a bell, and it would
clear as a bell, like
that command would not go away. And so I put up with it for about 3 months, and then just said, okay, I'm going to go with it. And I started experimenting, with I figured the psychic way was the way to go because my mom had told me there's a psychic line in our family, so that was my best bet. And I experimented and came across pendulum dowsing, and that's what started it all.
Do you keep track of all the cases you've worked on looking for kids and how many you found over the years?
Or? I used to. I don't. I used to have an enormous number of files. I've dumped them all. I've kept a few.
You find that it's more important to do the work than it is to keep track of the number.
Yeah, and part of it, I train myself. You're dealing a lot of times with really horrible stuff. I mean, truly horrible stuff. And I train myself to wash. Which is why my
joke was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I train myself to wash a lot of it out of my brain because I don't want to live with it. So sometimes if you ask me about a specific case, I don't remember because I don't want to remember.
But your spirit, at least, something inside you enjoys the work.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's all I know. And George and I feel the same way. We're being guided to do what we are supposed to be doing at this time.
And George, you said since you were a kid, you were into the UFO phenomenon and paranormal stuff.
Yeah, there's never been a moment where I suddenly whoa, there it is. No, it's just been a natural field of interest forever.
Can I share with you guys a little bit? Yeah, have either of you ever had a near-death experience or witnessed ghosts, aliens, anything?
I have seen a UFO in my life.
Have you guys seen a UFO?
Lots of them.
Yeah, I figure lots of people have seen the UFOs.
No, and if you spend enough time out at night, and as a writer, I'm also an avid hiker and camper, so I'm outdoors a lot. If you look at the sky, you're going to see bright object exhibiting non-ballistic motion.
It happened. I was in Spring Valley, and it was so clear, cigar shaped, and it almost had an aura around it. Neighbors, the sheriffs were called because people shot guns at it. Like the sheriffs came out, and I actually went in to call the sheriff. My friend was there looking at it too. We were both looking at it, And he said it was because I was in calling the sheriffs, and he was there looking at it, and he said it did a kind of color shift, and then it just went right up into the sky.
Fucking Tyson. I can't believe that you're a UFO. I'm gonna go call the cops.
No, I called the cops because people were shooting at the UFO. There were gunshots. I'm like, okay, I'm calling the police.
All right, that
The
makes sense.
gunshots. There's you know,
Sorry.
people shooting at it. But I mean, so it wasn't an imagination. You know, several people called in. You know, everybody saw it. It wasn't. You know, it was a thing, and it
What
changes
fucking
you when you
idiots are shooting at it. God, fucking morons. Human beings, man. We got a long way to go. If you want to check out Dan Baldwin's books and George Sewell's books, you can also go to fournightspress.com. It's in the description down below, but also you can go to danbaldwin.com. And if you want to talk to George, you can go to georgesewell.com. It's in the description.
Add a middle initial there, George E. Sewell.
Oh, sorry, georgesewell.com.
Yeah, there's a rascal up in New York City named George Sewell, and I can't be responsible for his mischief.
Yeah, what if you're him too? You know?
Oh, here we go.
So that's another book. That's another book. We'll call you next year.
Yeah, Pendulum does New York.
I got to tell you, and God or whoever's listening, I extremely love living this multiversal lifetime being blessed to be a soul in this avatar that we call human. It's a blast. I'm having a good time. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We have one more question, I think. No, two
more callers.
Mala, let's take you, and then Leftwich will shut it down. Hey, Mala.
You're on mute, Mala.
Unmute your spiritual global introvert button. All right.
You dear. Okay,
there you
so
go.
Question. Mr. Baldwin, is that a tiger's eye? Your pendulum?
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
That. The second question I had is, do you have any specific techniques you use to open your mind before you start reading?
Yeah, really basic. It's not like a ritual or anything. I get off into a quiet room, dim the lights, play like soft new age type music just because I want to use it as white noise. And I meditate for about 10 minutes.
Very nice.
What kind of meditation?
It depends. Sometimes I'll meditate on sometimes I'll just meditate on deep breaths. And sometimes I'll meditate, if it's a missing person case, I'll just meditate on the person's image or the person's name.
I got to tell you, I get a real kick out of you guys because I was raised by New Age hippies, and we didn't see a lot of folks in cowboy hats and glasses that were into this stuff. And I just think it's really cool.
I'm not a New Ager.
I know. I just love that you break the stereotype and that there is no such thing as stereotypes. It's just cool. It's cool to see a cowboy that's into dowsing.
I'm a redneck from the oil patch. You don't get more stereotyped than that.
Yeah. So did you stumble upon dowsing after?
Literally.
Other things?
I was at a
After The Voice,
just talking to people, and I saw a woman doing the pendulum dowsing. What I can do that.
Yeah, that works.
That's where it started. I'm self-taught.
Sorry, Molly. Go ahead.
I was going to ask Mr. Sewell, do you use the dowsing rods, or is yours also a pendulum form?
George, do you? Oh, he's got one too. Oh, you both use them.
That means something.
I have.
Wow.
The
That
dowsing.
swinging
That looks
bow
like
and yellow
amethyst.
doesn't mean anything.
That is beautiful. They're both beautiful.
And you have dowsing rods, right, Mala? Is that what those were?
And I also have my pendulum.
And you have your pendulum as well. So there's
Yeah,
pendulum dowsing.
Whatever works for you works for you.
How many types of dowsing are there? Pendulum? Is there just those two, or are there more?
Pendulum, the rods. You got the old witching stick, the old willow stick.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
look-
Here's
for the
some
water.
screenshots from
You can
our
stand
Discord.
upright and use your body as a pendulum.
That's nice. I like that.
What's that?
Oh,
What's that
my
map
spirit.
there? Oh, so you put the thing over the top of that map and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
oh, so you can
Yes,
get more
yeah.
than yes or no.
Oh yeah. Well, then yeah. In looking for missing person, I often employ map dowsing.
Oh, wow.
Because, is this person in Chicago? Yes. Is this person on XYZ Street? Is this person in the hotel? Yes or no? Is this person on the second floor? Yes or no?
See, this avatar is such a dingbat. I just thought you only had yes or no. You didn't have any other
Well,
options.
yeah, it's all yes or no questions, and you have to ask
But-
a hell of a lot
but
of
if-
questions.
But if you
can get
have the
real-
map and all the different names and stuff, what are you showing, Mala? What's that?
It's a pendulum book. It
Mhm.
has
Oh, wow.
different boards you can use for different informational purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Neat. See, my hippie parents used to hold those over my chakras to see if they were open or closed. And
Yeah.
when I was a kid, they would tell me that, I needed to work on this chakra or that chakra.
There's also
All my parents did was play John Denver for me.
Same thing. Like Dan says, it's the same thing.
It's all the
I
same
love him.
stuff.
Don't get me
You
wrong.
just got to find out what works for you.
Yeah.
John Denver is very spiritual, dude.
I love me some Denver. Yeah.
Hey, Denver was great. All right, let's take him. He's last but not least. His name is
What's up?
What's that? How's everyone doing tonight?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Doing good, man. How about you?
I'm great. I love to have you finish the show. Do you have a question for George and Dan?
Oh, I'm sure we're going to get to one. George, Dan, what's
Let
up?
me
You guys are
ramble
awesome.
first.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys are awesome. I like you. Yeah, just a little bit of background. I've been abducted. I was abducted when I was like 3 years old, something like that. I was in my bed. I woke up at like 11 o'clock at night. My mom and dad had gone to a Christmas party. My dad worked for the DOD. He worked at Chanute Air Force Base, Rantoul, Illinois. It was one of those parties where you are required to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Mandatory fun.
yeah, right. And so they were there. My grandma was downstairs, and it was 11 o'clock at night. I just woke up, and I didn't know what to do. So I just walked over to my window and I sat down on the sill and I looked outside, and about 75 feet away, I called it a giant Tylenol. Today we know them as a Tic Tac, but it was a giant Tylenol is what I always called it. And it was about the size of a Greyhound bus. And it was like this matte silverish thing. And it was just sitting there. It didn't wobble. It didn't make a sound. It didn't do shit. And I looked at it and I was able to empathically communicate with the beings that were inside of it. And they were the Greys. There were 7 of them. And they told me that they were my watchers. And that was it. That's basically what they told me. And then there were like these 7 little looked like little airplane lights, horizontal airplane lights that opened up, but it wasn't lights, they were windows. And then they just went away. And and I just sat there and I looked at it literally for quite a while, and I remember this like it was yesterday. And then it started to slowly move off to the right. And I was like, hey, what the fuck, man? What are you doing? You can't leave me here. I mean, you're going to come down and visit. At least take me with you. Shit.
Yeah, give me a ride.
You're an asshole. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to tell my grandma. And that's what I did. And, of course, she laughed it off. The thing was gone when she went, out to look at it. I didn't see it zip off or anything like that because it was still there when I ran downstairs. And then my dad, he laughed it off. My mom believed me 100%. My dad today, he believes me. And after that, it was immediately after that, I have a scar right here on the fleshy part of my right knee. And it's about that long. And you can still see it. It's quite pronounced. And that was it. And then I know that they can take you, without you knowing it. Anything, because I had 2 dots pop up on my upper right arm the night of the Phoenix lights. And I thought they were little
I'm
pimples.
waiting for a question.
Okay, we're going to get to it. But anyway.
No, I love you, man. I do. I really do. I just,
A
I'm
question.
wondering.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm really interested in the pendulum dowsing.
well, you said you had a scar, right? So I'm wondering from George if he's had any experience with MUFON or with the cases that he's looked at of people actually having tracking stuff put in them. But you say you were telepathically talking to Greys.
Yes.
Do you have any, George? Do you have any cases that you've looked at where Greys do that to people?
Well, again, I can't specify with Grays. I've never had any dealings with him per se, although not too long ago, touched base with Lindsay again. And she woke up and she had several little marks on her forearm that was a little curious. And it turned out that, yeah, she had an I'd say a visitation that evening or that night while she was asleep. And her husband, of course, is oblivious. But those were marks from a more recent visitation. And
So
they fade quickly.
They fade quickly, but are they like needlepoint marks? And Chris, what did yours look like?
Mine is a scar. It's about.
Oh, you have an actual scar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been there since I was 3. It's still there to this day. If I get in the right lighting and everything, I can take a picture and send it to you.
Is it very faint?
Not really. Well, kind of. It's a lot more faint. It's a lot more faint than it was originally. Originally, I looked at it and thought it was like cottage cheese under my skin.
Can you feel anything in there?
Yeah, no. The only thing I can feel is
oh, look at that. What's that?
That is something that popped up probably about 10 years ago. It's just in my pinky. It's in the fleshy part. It's not on the bone, so I know it's not a calcium deposit. It's I don't know what it is.
Looks like a little barbell. Does it feel metallic? Does it feel?
No, it doesn't
feel like.
I don't know. It feels like something. I mean, there's something in there. You can feel structure to whatever's in there. And it just popped up out of nowhere. I went to bed one night. I woke up one morning. Bam, there it is. And occasionally it will get really hot. Like this whole side of my hand will get really hot. And occasionally it will, it'll feel weird. It'll just have weird feelings to it. But
we had a guest on a few weeks ago.
But you can't see it unless you
do aliens take do they take your corporeal body, or do they take your spirit and your body is just there? The reason I ask is there are people who have CCTV in their room, cameras in their room, and they claim they were abducted that night, but the camera shows they were there the whole time. They never moved.
Oh, they have.
So are they?
Yes.
What's being taken? Okay.
They're
physically for sure,
They're
but it does not have
taken.
to be a physical occurrence.
Yeah. Both.
Correct.
So it could be a non-corporeal abduction of whatever makes you.
That does appear to occur.
Remember what that lady said a few weeks ago, that they could literally abduct your soul consciousness and they could put it in clone bodies and make you serve, or if you decided that you wanted to serve on the 20 and back program, remember that they could actually deliver your soul body back to your original body outside of time. 20 years after your service, they would plug you back in through your spinal fluid or something, some kind of tech they had. But you can, for me, I'm not trying to spill disinformation, or I don't believe in anything, and I also believe in everything. I think this universe is too amazing to even comprehend. But for me, it's like, why not? You know, if these things have been around millions of years longer than human beings, I mean, look at the AI we're coming up with now. Like I said earlier, these alien beings are or these interdimensional beings, or these spiritual beings they're going to have tech that is just magic to us, of course.
Oh yeah, dude. If they can abduct you from your house, you know, they can fuck with your computers. They can fuck with our computers. They can fuck with the sun. Hell, they may have been responsible for the solar flare that just happened.
They can mess with our soul. Yeah, they might have stoked that little thing. Who knows?
Of course they can.
Maybe they
are literally gods.
Oh, by the way, yeah, Katie's new blog she posted talks about pregnancy and baby massage. Next week we'll be on acupressure. Is acupressure like acupuncture?
Yes, but using like massage pressure
She can
techniques
answer
as
you.
opposed to
She's
needles.
right here.
It uses the same points on the body, but it's just done with pressure rather than needles.
Okay.
Cool.
So Dan and George, sorry, Chris, did you have a question, or were you just going to ramble some more about aliens?
No, I was just going to ramble more.
He just pay him no mind, Chris.
I'm just Chris.
I love you, Chris.
I'm
really
just some
do.
Southern boy from the South.
Chris thinks that the moon is an alien spaceship that's been here forever.
Yes,
basically taking
space
DNA and doing all the experiments on Earth with all these different life forms. And maybe it's the Nordics running it. I don't know. Maybe they're up there tinkering with the DNA and watching dinosaurs and all these different life forms.
It could be. You know, Dan and George were talking about shape shifting. You know, earlier. Okay. Like say we have a Nordic. You look back at mythology. Zeus would frequently change himself into a swan and go out looking for giggity. Well, I mean, he did. That's literally. He would go. Yeah.
No, it's true. No,
is that the best kind of sex? Swan sex.
Swan sex.
Well, he would change back into.
God could choose.
I think he was also a bull, or one of them was a bull, but that was another one. Yeah.
No, you make it however big you want if you're a god.
Zeus liked to. Yeah, he liked.
That's a great way to end the show.
That is a great way to end the show. Light beings incarnating into Earth as every animal to experience all the different forms of sex they can. By Chris Leftwich. Thank you so much. This has been Dangerous Thoughts. Dan and George, thank you so much for joining us. You've been excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting up with us. Please check these guys' books out. In the description below, you'll see their websites. You'll see the books that they've written. And you can also just look up Dan Baldwin or George Sewell on Amazon and check out some of their books. Their new book is called, I know Dan has a copy of it. It's called Dowsing.
This is the
Paranormal Pendulum.
That's the Lindsay
3.
Higgins book.
That's the Lindsay Higgins book that Dan and George both just wrote.
We're completing Paranormal Pendulum 4.
I'm really interested. I'm gonna pick up a copy of your guys' book because I really don't think we got into the real question of how these two fields mix up and match up together as much as I wanted to. So I'm gonna read the book.
Yeah, it's a good primer.
Yeah, cool. I'm excited to read it. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks for putting up with us. Cassie, do we have do you know our guest next week?
Malados.
Yeah, I blew it.
Rob Sullivan? Is that right? Rob Sullivan.
Rob Sullivan. And what does Rob do?
My piece of paper just says Rob. I don't know.
Join us next week for Rob Sullivan. He's an interesting guy, I promise. We'll see you next week on Dangerous Thoughts. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take it to them, ruining motivation to survive. I reside like a jungle, hold the rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, your knees collapsing away. Hey, gorilla hearted, I'm beating my chest to stay alive. Take it to them, ruining motivation to survive. I reside like a jungle, hold the rest of a nation. You couldn't hold me like a tongue, your knees collapsing away. Hey, gorilla hearted, I'm beating my chest to stay alive. Hey.